It's Marc with the Fantasy Knockout Fantasy Football Show. Today is Tuesday, August 8th. You can follow the show on social media at Fantasy Knockout. Make sure to subscribe whatever platform you're watching or listening on. And let's get this goal this year of 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. I'm excited for today's show. We're going to be talking about the quarterback rankings. Quick question though, have you guys signed up to become a Knockout member? There's plenty of perks to doing this. When you do, you'll get access to overall draft rankings, the draft cheat sheets. In season, you'll have access to the flex rankings, trade chart, priority questions and answers. So head over to the website, fantasyknockout.com, and sign up there. Here we go. We have preseason games starting this week. You guys ready to watch some football? We're almost there. Draft season is starting up, so here we go.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Here is the news.
News with views. All right, so running back Joe Mixon of the Cincinnati Bengals, he has been named in a civil lawsuit for connection to a March shooting. He has been cleared of criminal charges in the case, so basically he could receive a suspension because of his involvement in the NFL's conduct policy. So I'd imagine if that is the case, it'd be a one-game suspension there. Running back Eno Benjamin from New Orleans, he will miss the season with a torn Achilles. He wasn't going to be really fantasy relevant anywho, but it is a depth move there. Then tight end TJ Hawkinson from Minnesota. He did not practice this past Saturday, but he was present on the sidelines. So there's rumors of potential, quote, hold-in for Hawkinson. I believe he's set up to play under the fifth-year option of his rookie contract this year. So he's looking to get a deal done sooner than later. So that makes sense. Hopefully it doesn't linger and they can work things out. Wide receiver Cooper Kupp from the Rams. His head coach Sean McVay labeled Kupp his hamstring as day-to-day, so that's good news. They're hopeful that he will be back in about 2 weeks for that Raiders joint practice with the Rams. So Kupp should be good to go to start the season. Running back Devon Achane, the rookie there in Miami. He is, quote, day-to-day. Achane limped off and didn't return after he was injured in Saturday's practice. So I doubt he's going to play in this preseason opener for Miami. Running back Josh Jacobs of the Raiders. So there are some rumors of possible trade partners such as like the Chiefs and the Broncos. They've reached out to see if they could trade for Jacobs. I don't know if the Raiders would trade in division like that. So it's possible that the Raiders rescind the franchise tag or the franchise tender, and then they could work out a deal or a trade, which would make him a free agent. So I'm confident Jacobs, he's going to stay a Raider. Pretty confident in that. So I think the Raiders will work things out, and he'll be playing this year there. Then last bit of news is running back Kareem Hunt, who's a free agent. He's expected to meet with the Saints. Alvin Kamara got a 3-game suspension, and then the backup Eno Benjamin, we said he suffered a torn Achilles. So I'm thinking this is going to be more of a depth piece during Kamara's suspension, if anything, and I doubt that anything relevant will happen with Kareem Hunt in New Orleans, but he is meeting with the team.
Main event.
All right, the main event, quarterback rankings. These are my draft quarterback rankings for this year. So real quick, the scoring format that I'm going to talk in is half PPR. I know we're talking quarterbacks, but we're going to do 4-point touchdowns, not the 6-point passing touchdowns. Pretty standard league settings across most platforms there. Number 1, Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills. He's my quarterback 1 this year. Allen finished number 1 in points per game and led all quarterbacks in top 5 performances, which was 11 times. He's thrown more than 4,000 yards in 3 straight seasons, and he has finished with 35 to 37 touchdown passes every year during that span. He adds immense value with his legs as he runs for 700 plus yards in the last 2 years and adds at least 6 rushing touchdowns every year. He's everything you could want in a fantasy quarterback, and he should be the quarterback 1 in redrafts yet again. Number 2 is Patrick Mahomes of the Kansas City Chiefs. Arguably the best pure passer to ever play in the NFL. It doesn't get much better than the MVP, Super Bowl MVP, and he broke his own record for the most top 12 performances in a season with 15. Mahomes is the safest bet you can make at quarterback, so paying up for an elite quarterback like him in the third round is viable. Number 3, Jalen Hurts of the Philadelphia Eagles. So Hurts, he should be considered the most consistent quarterback last year, or Hurts was the most consistent quarterback last year. He was number 1 in expected fantasy points, number 1 in road fantasy points per game, and number 1 in passer rating versus zone coverage. He improved massively as a passer, but what made his fantasy season was the work on the ground. He averaged 11 rushing attempts per game, finished with 13 rushing touchdowns. Yes, the tush push. And the most red zone rush attempts of all time for a quarterback. So he's firmly established himself in the elite quarterback tier for fantasy. So I would have Allen, Mahomes, and Hurts as my top 3 tier quarterbacks. I want one of those guys in the second to third round this year if you're going to go high on a quarterback. My number 4 quarterback is Lamar Jackson from the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar, he is a Raven. He had us kind of guessing during the offseason for a while. The former league MVP has quietly become more boom or bust than you may realize. After the lowest yards per attempt, which was 6.9 of his career, it might be easy to kind of be out on him. Running quarterbacks, they're a great equalizer in fantasy. So keep in mind that 60 plus rushing yards and a score is the same as 300 passing yards in most leagues. Jackson, he'll be playing for a new pass-friendlier, faster-paced offensive coordinator, Todd Monken. So after the Ravens, they parted with Greg Roman. Even with uncertainty with the recent injuries with Lamar, he's still an upper echelon fantasy quarterback that's capable of a quarterback 1 finish. Why I have him at my quarterback 4. Number 5 is Joe Burrow of the Cincinnati Bengals. So Joe Burrow has firmly established himself as a premium fantasy quarterback. Burrow finished quarterback 4 in fantasy scoring last season after throwing a career-high 35 touchdown passes. He ended up 2nd in passing touchdowns, 4th in fantasy points per game, and 5th in passing yards. He did all this without Jamar Chase over a month and a banged-up offensive line. The Bengals have made significant investments in their offensive line this year. Burrow ranks in my tier 2 of quarterbacks. So at training camp, he suffered a calf injury, and that's going to keep Burrow sidelined throughout the fantasy draft season. But he's expected to be back in time for week 1. I like Burrow a lot. So Lamar, Joe, and this next guy. Number 6, Justin Herbert of the Los Angeles Chargers. I have them in my second tier. Herbert, his 2022 fantasy season was nothing less than frustrating. Herbert took a step backwards with significant declines in his yardage per game, yardage per attempt, and touchdown rate. In Herbert's defense, he gutted it out through a rib cartilage fracture sustained early in the season. The Chargers switched up their offensive coordinator by adding Kellen Moore. His arrival should open up the offense and capitalize on Herbert's strength, throwing the football downfield, and will likely produce much improved fantasy numbers this year. I like Herbert a lot. He's on the border of becoming one of my guys this season. Just like the value, you can grab him in the 5th round, 6th round in most drafts. Number 7 is Justin Fields of the Chicago Bears. So Justin Fields was electric as a runner last year. If he can significantly boost his passing numbers this year, look out. Fields ran for 1,143 yards and 8 touchdowns last year, averaging a league-high 7.1 yards per carry. The Bears traded for wideout DJ Moore and bolstered their offensive line in the NFL draft, giving Fields a chance to make the same sort of quantum leap that Jalen Hurts made last year. The upside is immense. Fields could be a top 5 quarterback this year. Number 8 is Trevor Lawrence of the Jacksonville Jaguars. So after the debacle of Urban Meyer, we all remember that. It was clear the Jaguars made the right call in drafting Trevor Lawrence 2 years ago. So he became the 2nd sophomore quarterback ever to put up 4,000 passing yards, 25 passing touchdowns, and 5 rushing scores, joining Deshaun Watson. He's in the conversation as a top 8 fantasy quarterback this year with upside to finish in the top 5. if things break right. His receiving options are even better this year. They added Calvin Ridley to the mix, which I think is only going to help him. Number 9 is Daniel Jones of the New York Giants. So a mistake-prone turnover machine during his first 3 NFL seasons. Daniel Jones flourished in year 4 under first-year Giants head coach Brian DeBole, finishing quarterback 9 in fantasy scoring. He ran for 708 yards, 7 touchdowns last year. He averaged only 200 passing yards per game and threw 15 passing touchdowns in 15 starts, which is not great. But Jones didn't have much pass-catching talent either. They added Darren Waller to the mix, and Jones figures to be a low-end quarterback 1 or a high-end quarterback 2 this year in fantasy drafts. Number 10 is Deshaun Watson of the Cleveland Browns. So after serving an 11-game suspension, Watson didn't exactly return to fantasy dominance as many projected. I had hopes he would, and he didn't. The Browns' offense was noticeably worse in almost every major offensive category compared to when Jacoby Brissett was playing. For this year, he certainly possesses some of the upside you might be looking for in a later round quarterback. He is worth a look. I just don't see the same ceiling that he once had. All right, and then the rest of the next 20 quarterbacks we have, I'll put up the graphic. So number 11 is going to be Dak Prescott of the Dallas Cowboys. 12 is Geno Smith of the Seattle Seahawks. I like those guys as late round options if you pass on or you miss out on the early quarterbacks. 13 is Kirk Cousins of Minnesota. Anthony Richardson comes in at 14. I'll take a stab on Anthony Richardson with his rushing ability, just see if something happens there. 15 is Tua Tagovailoa. We'll see if he can catch that mid-season magic that he had last season. Maybe he can do that for half the season or more. Tua's a nice late-round target as well. 16 is Aaron Rodgers of the New York Jets. 17 is Russell Wilson of Denver. 18 is Jared Goff of Detroit. 19, Kyler Murray. We got to see how if he's ready to go to start the season. I don't imagine he will be. And then coming in at number 20 is Brock Purdy of the Niners. Well, that's going to wrap it up today. The next show is going to be the running back rankings. Thank you for listening to the show. Make sure to subscribe whatever platform you're on. Please leave that rating and review. It really helps me out. All right. Till next time. See ya.